I hope that my life is a model of what someone in the kingdom might look like. And I hope that the world can look to the way I live and say, it's possible to live like Christ lived.
All right. How you doing, Zach?
I'm doing well. It's that crunch point in the semester where we have 1 week left of classes, and then we have finals. So studying, trying to cram a little bit, but also taking it easy, recognizing that I have 1 semester left after this.
Yeah.
And that's hard to believe, but I'm ready to move on to the next steps. So I'm doing all right. How are you doing
hmm
today?
Yeah, doing well. This is that crunch time of the semester, like you said. But for me on the staff side of things, it's a little bit different. I'm just like here waiting, ready for students if there are fires to put out, to just be able to show up and care for
Yeah.
students in different kinds of capacities. I know we've known each other for quite a
Mhm.
while, but remind me again, where are you from and what led you to Ashland?
Yeah. So I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
Like truly I can see downtown from my
Oh, can you really?
yeah, from our balcony at our house. So I'm from the big city. That's
Mhm.
what I'm used to. I went to a large school in Cleveland, and then my high school wasn't too large. It was a private school
Yep.
out in the suburbs, but I'm from Cleveland. And then one of my brother's friends in cross country,
hmm
he was a runner, actually chose Ashland for track. And he was like, I think you'd be a great fit for Ashland. You seem like kind of a smaller school kind of guy, looking to be in a place where you can make an impact, but then also have good relationships with the professors. And he said, I think you should check Ashland out. And so I was thinking, like Cleveland and Ashland, when we were driving through Ashland, I was like, there's nothing here. What am
Oh
I going to
man.
find here?
Yeah.
But then when I visited the campus, I was like, this is a real community, and I could actually like find a place here. And so after I visited some of the other schools, the list kept narrowing down, and always in the back of my mind, it was Ashland, Ashland, Ashland. And so I revisited, and I decided I think this is the place. Um, so really, what made me choose it was I really liked the psychology and the religion programs. That's what I major in. I'm a major
Okay.
in psychology and religion.
Very
And I came in wanting to do pastoral counseling, but then over time I kind of changed my career path a little bit. And that's kind of how I chose it.
Mhm.
And so, like you said, we've known each other for a while, and I
Yep,
know that you went to Ashland.
I did.
So looking back, how have things changed? What made
Yeah.
you pick Ashland, and why do you still work here?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so I grew up in Mansfield, Ohio. So I grew up maybe 15 minutes down the road from Ashland. And I didn't really know a ton about Ashland until I started getting further in my athletic career. I was a track athlete. I also played football and basketball in high school, but track was like the big sport for me. I was a thrower, so I did shot put and discus in high school. And when I started looking for colleges for track, I quickly realized that Ashland had one of the best D2 track and field programs in the nation. And when you looked at throws specifically, we probably had the best throws program in the nation. And so I went and I put applications in at other schools related to the major that I wanted to pursue. Wanted to be an exercise science major, go on and do chiropractic. That's the plan that I have for my life. And track and field allowed me to come to Ashland. It was actually this really cool opportunity. I was thinking of going to Walsh University for the longest time. Went on an overnight, loved the campus, loved the team. I looked at their record board as a freshman and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get some of these records. I was excited. I was really excited to go there, was gonna be in the GLIAC conference. And then my coach in high school, he actually went to AU and he told me just all season, make sure you check out Ashland. And I was like, yeah, okay, it's whatever. And like he just kept reiterating it over and over. And so finally I submit my application, got into Ashland, and I kept delaying my visit to AU. It wasn't until maybe June, the year that I actually went to school, that I went on a visit to AU. So super, super late in the game. And when I went to AU, I got an opportunity to sit down with their head track coach, Judd Logan. He's a four-time Olympian, living legend of a guy. And I sit down with him and we're in the troop center and he points out all the jerseys that are on the wall in the corner there. And it's all these Olympic jerseys, and he breaks something down to me, and he says, "You can go to Walsh, and we're gonna see you at every single track meet. We're gonna be competing against each other, and I'm gonna be cheering for you." He was actually there to root me on, but he said, "You'll break their freshman records, and I don't know how far else you'll go, but you'll do great things there. Or you can come to Ashland and be the bottom of the totem pole, and reach for something even higher. You could have one of your jerseys up here. And so he just painted this picture of excellence of this program. And from that moment on, I was sold. I knew I had to be here at AU. But the thing that kept me at Ashland, I think, was related to faith. There was something so special about the faith community at Ashland. You mentioned that as you came to Ashland, you just recognized that this could be a really powerful community. And so I think faith is really what kept me at Ashland. And then God began to open doors that I never thought would be opened, to the point where now I work as a pastor at the church that meets here on this campus, Five Stones. And then I also work for Ashland University in community and belonging. So I never thought that I would be doing that work. I thought I'd always go into chiropractic or exercise physiology and be a strength and conditioning coach or something like that. But God had very different plans.
Yeah. So when you were an undergrad, was faith always kind of in the back of your mind, or was it central? What made you come around to that? Was it during your time at Ashland, or did it come after?
Yeah, faith was always important. Grew up in a Christian home, and it had always just been a huge value for me. In fact, when I started track, it was with a track club called Blessed to Run, is a Christian track club that my dad helped start in Mansfield. And so, like, it's always been a part of my life. So the second day of campus, I went to FCA. And you're probably familiar with FCA here on campus. And FCA back then was a little bit different than it is now. Back then, we might have had 60 to 80 people showing up to FCA, and that was awesome. Like, that was a really good turnout if we had 80 people showing up. But that first week, I get there, and there's this huge breakdown. I showed up a little bit early, and they didn't have anyone to run like the tech side of stuff, sound and slides. And because I was early, and because the MC of FCA was the team captain of the track team, I kind of got voluntold to like help. And so from day two on campus, I started serving at FCA, and then I served in that capacity every year that I was here as a student on that tech team. So really quickly roped into a faith community, and opportunities just kept arising to go deeper into that community. But I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the communities that you're plugged into on campus?
Yeah, so probably so I the way I really like to think about the campus of Ashland is you got your big organizations, but then you have your little ones. And the large ones make a big difference, but you really find your home in the smaller
Yeah.
organizations. So probably the largest one I'm a part of is the Ashbrook Scholar Program, history, political science. I'm just a minor, but I do enjoy that side of just learning about the nation's history and then how we can engage in political conversations. But the smaller organizations are where I find my home. So the two that I can think of just off the top of my head that I'm heavily involved in is Ratio Christi, which is the
Oh,
Christian
yeah.
apologetics group on campus. So I'm the president of that, and then the International Student Services club. Um, and so Ratio Christi, their mission or our mission is to equip Christian students to have cultural conversations about the big issues facing the Christian faith. So just a brief little summary of what apologetics is, it's essentially defending the faith from outside. Skeptic, it attacks and questions and things like that. And so during my junior year of high school, I really started to question my faith. So I'm a pastor's kid. I grew up in that space in the parsonage, always over at the church. Dad was always like, Zach and Elijah, my brother, can you come into the crawl space and pull out the Christmas tree? We're going to set it
Yeah.
up this Sunday. Always in the church, setting up chairs, shoveling, doing whatever it was. Um, but then my junior year of high school, I really started having asking the big questions. And there was a moment in my life where I had some pretty bad depressive symptoms. But then as I started to figure out that there are actually answers to these things, both online and then in books I was given, I really found a mission there. And so I knew that whatever college I was going to go to, I wanted to find an apologetics group. And so it was on our first tour, my junior year, when we were walking through the chapel, my dad and I, and on the table was this pamphlet that said 75% of students change their worldview after they leave college. And it was for Ratio Christi. And it was just an introduction to that. Uh, and so that's a little bit about that. And then for ISS, International Student Services, so it's a bit special for me because I'm an American who gets to be involved with all of these people from all over the world. So two of my roommates are from Ukraine. Our previous president was Sanjana from India. And we have students from Nepal and Sweden involved. And we get to have other presenters. So we've had South American presenters from Africa. And our goal is to give international students a voice on campus.
Mm.
And so I feel privileged to be a part of that because I do like to travel. I haven't traveled much, but I do like to travel. But also trying to show the American students, which is the large majority of students here at Ashland, what other people think about and how they understand their culture, how they understand American culture,
Yeah.
but then also what their cultures can bring to the world essentially, or to Ashland.
Yeah, that's
Because
beautiful.
Ashland is a small place, so it doesn't always have like the same like world feel to get like, a big campus or in a big city.
Mhm.
So it's special to be able to do that and have that privilege to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I'm privileged to be in an office with our director of international student services. And so I feel like I get to live on those fun places at campus as well, where you get to interact with a much more diverse group of people than what you would think you could at Ashland, in this smaller town. And so I'm glad that you have stepped so deeply into that community and continued that work to give them a voice, but even just to highlight their culture. Like you get to do like the world cafes where you get to spotlight a culture, you get to share foods, and you get to like talk about the different customs and how they're different, practice some dances, all sorts of
Oh
fun and goofy
yeah.
things like that. Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's always such a good time. Yeah. We're both a part of another community together
Mhm.
that's been really fun together. Maybe a little challenging and trying, but super awesome opportunity with youth Bible study.
Yes.
How'd you get connected with youth Bible study?
Yeah, so, I go to it's at Park Street Brethren Church, which is the church in Ashland that I found. I was invited to it after I was trying to find a good church home. And the first time I went, I thought, "This is the church for me," after the first Sunday. And so since then, I've barely missed a Sunday, when I'm here in Ashland. And 2 people in the community know that I'm interested in ministry, and they thought that one of the major aspects of ministry is youth ministry. And I never really had experience in that. And they thought I might be a good fit, come alongside some of the young men that go with the fourth, fifth, and sixth grade boys. And like you said, it's a little bit challenging. They like to have fun while we're there, which
Oh,
is great. We
absolutely.
tell them that
Yep.
we're here to have fun as well. But we're also here to dig into God's word, and that's our focus. And so it's a great time. I do want to teach in some capacity later in my career. And so it's taught me a lot about how to break down really huge concepts for people who maybe never heard these things before. Maybe they're diving into the book of Ezra, for example, for the first time, or Daniel. Um, and so it's taught me a lot about listening, meeting people where they're at and trying to understand what they might think about something. But then I've also learned a lot from them. The questions they ask or the answers they give to my questions, I've never would have ever thought of before. So I'm really grateful to be a part of it. So how about you? You lead it. So what
Yeah.
led you into that capacity?
Man, I feel like God has called me really uniquely to Ashland, to this community, and to the youth of this community. And so anytime there's this opportunity brought before me to serve in that capacity, I almost always say yes to it. But I really got pulled into the mission of this because it really, really closely aligned with the mission that I have for my church's youth ministry. My church's youth and children's ministry, the mission I have for it is to make every household a church. So equipping the parents for like raising up kids in the tradition of the church. And so any opportunity to do that, I always say yes to. And youth Bible study is part of this bigger group called Bible Study Fellowship. And the unique thing about that is there are men's groups and there are women's groups for Bible study fellowship. And then there was this youth Bible study program, and they were all following the same curriculum, which is kind of rare for kids and adults to all be following the same curriculum at the same time. But what it did was it empowered families to have these spiritual conversations and really have the tools to go deep with their kids about this stuff. And so as they explained that that's kind of this model that it was, I couldn't say no to it. I had to be a part of it. And some of my own youth group kids were participating in it. And so, yeah, it was just this really awesome invitation into something special that God was doing in this community. And it was this ecumenical thing where it wasn't necessarily connected to one church. I know right now it's housed in Park Street Brethren Church, but before it was housed at Trinity Lutheran Church. And so it was really cool to see people from different churches all coming together. And it really blessed my heart. I do diversity work here at Ashland University. And so anytime I can bring some of that into the church too, I always love those opportunities where those worlds collide. And this felt like another one of those opportunities where it's this image of what the church should always be. People coming from all over, all different
Mhm.
languages, tribes, tongues,
Mhm.
like theological
Oh, yeah.
traditions, all that stuff coming and converging together to serve. But then it's also been this opportunity and like an on ramp for people like you who are looking to get into ministry, to find some opportunities for training,
Mhm.
to get to learn how to distill really intellectual things into like very
Mhm.
simple teaching points for
Mhm.
students. Like it's such an awesome opportunity. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I said yes to 5BS.
Yeah, it's a great ministry. I've really enjoyed it, and I am appreciative that they took me on. And I've learned a lot from it, like I said. Um, what is your favorite thing about Ashland? Not necessarily the university, but about the city. So you've been here a
About the
while.
city, yeah,
You've seen a lot of change, I'm sure. So what's your favorite part about it, and what speaks to you?
man. I think one of my favorite parts is Ashland just feels like home. Even though I'm not far from home, the community is so welcoming. I remember from my first day on campus, or really in Ashland, I felt super welcomed by the community. It was before the school semester had started. Our track coach had us come back for like this corn festival or something like that. And I was a little nervous going to it. But as I got there, we were just there to serve. So we were there to, I mean, throwers were big people. So we were there to set up and tear down tables and chairs and help people out that needed stuff. And after we got done doing our work, I remember the kitchen staff there that was helping serve the food brought us back there, and they just like blessed us and blessed us and blessed us, just giving us as much food as we could ask for. And as a thrower, that's a dream come true. And so, like, just they fed us well, they loved on us, and I could just tell from that moment on that this community wanted me here. And after I knew that, I was at home. But also, I love how Ashland has continued to like invest in itself and improve. And like AU is so much more beautiful than when I was here as a freshman. Even the city has grown tremendously. I just think of the restaurants that are now here that weren't here when I was a student. I think of downtown and how much they've invested there. It's such a fun place to be now. Even what they're doing right now at Freer Field, I don't know if you've been out there to see
Yeah.
all the Christmas lights and everything, the candy cane trail. It's so cool and it's free. And so there are a lot of these free opportunities that the city's provided that just make this a more special place each and every year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Ashland is a special place. A lot of my friends who are about to graduate with me are like, I don't want to leave
Yeah.
the town or the university. Because I think you hit it like right on the head. It is like it is like does feel like home. Um, and it's hard when you get into those rhythms, and then you're seeing such great people day after day. That and the consistency of Ashland, I think, is special as well. You can there's things to expect here. You know what's going on. You know what's going to go on. And the people that are around here really make it a special place. So I think that was a great answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, it's getting close to the end of your
Mhm.
time here at AU. So what are the things that are up next for you? What are some of the things that you're in pursuit of?
Yeah, so that's the big question. I'm definitely considering seminary. So for those who don't know, that would be like graduate studies in the Christian faith, whether that's ministry, or you could go for a teaching degree, or something specific in the realm of theology. But for me, I do feel the call to ministry. So I'll be starting with a Master of Divinity, or an MDiv for short. I haven't exactly nailed down where I want to go yet. I'm still praying a lot and discerning and having so many conversations with my family and my mentors that are here, um, and really trying to figure out where I might fit in, and also where I can go and serve the kingdom the best. And so my next step is seminary, whatever that might look like, whether that's in Atlanta or Grand Rapids, Michigan, or California. Uh, we're still figuring that out, but
Yeah.
I've got 3 months or 4 months, so there's some time. But
Mm,
applications are in, so now it's just a matter of what sticks out to me, I
yeah.
think, and continuing in those conversations and those visits. So those are my next steps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would love to learn a little bit more about what that discernment process has looked like.
yeah.
Because you had other influences that have kind of led you down a path.
Hmm.
So you had two generations before you at a specific seminary. What
Yeah.
seminary was that?
So that's Western Theological Seminary. That's in my denomination, the RCA, the Reformed Church in America. And it's a Dutch Reformed denomination, so my last name's Van Farowe, so it's very, very fitting. My dad went to Western. I think he graduated in 2000, and then my grandpa went to Western sometime, I want to say in the 60s or 70s. He was one of the first classes there. And the Van Farowe name has been there for a long time.
Has it
So
really?
my family has like 4 or 5 people with the last name Van Far. I don't know them, but who were there. And so my family's like, we want you to go to Western.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know, now I'll take that into consideration. But
No.
there's other things I need to look at. And so the discernment process specifically, is hard. It's a hard process. And it takes commitment, discipline, but also a recognition that this is what I love doing. And so I'm going to take it seriously. Um, and so I wish I could give you like a 2 sentence summary of what discernment looks like. I can't do that. I think it looks different for everyone. Um, and I think that who speaks to you and who you're speaking to is very important. But that's going to take different shapes depending on what you wanna do or who you are. Um, and so it's not super cut and dry, which makes it hard. It's hard to see where God is working. But I think that because I've been equipped here at Ashland, but then also at home and in various other places with things to look for, um, I think that has been a huge blessing and a huge help for me in my discernment process. So I can't give you a really clear answer, but I think that that's part of what discernment is. It's hard, it's difficult, it's challenging, but in the end, hopefully, it'll pay off. And I'm sure that wherever I go, that's where God wants me. So now it's just really trying to figure out what those signposts are. Where am I supposed to go? So my family says one thing, other people are saying another thing. So now it's really just trying to nail down and figure it out exactly. So
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I love is that it seems like your calling is pretty clear of what you're called to do. Even where like the destination piece might not be so certain right now, it seems like you already know kind of what profession you want to get into. What led you to ministry? Like what made like solidified that for you?
yeah, so it really did start with apologetics. So I when I came into college, what I wanted to do was pastoral counseling, hence psychology and religion. And I wanted to kind of have those conversations in a one-on-one setting. So students like me who have gone through like what might be called deconstruction, or not necessarily even students, but when I'm an adult and I'm with younger people, who have gone through deconstruction and then what it looks like to try and reconstruct. That's what I wanted to do. But then over time, I think I realized as I studied and as I had conversations with people that maybe my gifting is more so in the teaching realm or maybe even in the preaching realm. And so uh, that took a lot of coming to terms with. It's a hard, both of those are extremely difficult. Um, but overall, I think that, you're right. My calling has been clear, and I think it was always kind of like that. I'll be like you said, I'll be the 3rd generation of pastors in the family. So it does run in the blood apparently. But it really took a long time, but now I'm pretty set
Yeah,
in what I wanna do. So,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
awesome.
So then I guess I'll continue. So from apologetics, then I realized that there's so much more to the faith, and to the walk of faith, than just trying to answer questions. You really have to bear it out with your witness and your way of life, and how you're showing to others what Christ looks like. And that's ultimately what the pastor does. So it's not just from the pulpit, but it's from with his actions, with his service to others. And so over time, as I've kind of learned what that might look like, I'm thinking shepherding is something I think I could do. Maybe not right away. It'll take some time for me to step into that and get more comfortable doing that. But it's not just about trying to answer those hard questions. That's going to come, but that's not the focus. The focus is always on Christ and emulating him and what that looks like. So it was, like I said, it was a long journey, but I got there eventually and have been considering ministry now for the past 3 years. So I'm in the pre-seminary program with some other religion majors here. And we've had a good few years just running the call together and considering what ministry looks like. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Man, my call to ministry was definitely not like that. So I am a pastor, but man, when I came to college, I came here for sports. Like if you ask anybody, it was track that brought me to school. And it was sports that were always on my mind, or even the medical field that was always on my mind. But through FCA, I started to recognize God was calling me towards ministry. And I tried to fight it a little bit because it made me uncomfortable. I didn't like speaking in front of people. And so the thought of being in ministry meant a lot of public speaking, and that was terrifying to me. But then I was kind of voluntold to be a huddle leader. That same team captain that I talked about earlier, he had led Bible studies for the track team, and he was about to graduate, and he told the leader of FCA that Alex is going to run it next. And so Joe Magalet, the leader of FCA, came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm excited. You're going to be a huddle leader. Come to the meeting next week." And I just stood there frozen, not knowing what to say. And I just kind of nodded, like, okay, I guess I'll show up. But as I was there, God continued to just show up and confirm to me that this is where he wanted me to be. And the thing that was so special was like the calling, it became this understanding that God wasn't calling me to this thing to go and do by myself. If I had to go and do that work by myself, there's no way that I could have done it. But he called me there because he was going to go there with me. And so he always showed up every single time that I needed him, every time that I was nervous or that I didn't know what words to say, he would give me the words to say, or I could just sense his presence with me. And so I never actually felt alone as I stepped into that calling, but it definitely wasn't just this super clear cut path for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The people, make it worth it. They make your calling worth it, especially if your call is to ministry, because that's who you're serving, but then that's also who you're learning from. So one of the things I'm most grateful for here in my time at Ashland, and what I think I'll consider to be like my favorite part about it are my mentors. So all that they've poured into me, and it happened naturally over time. Let's go out to coffee and talk about your paper, but then that would turn into conversations about what life actually looks like. And so them being willing to walk alongside me, and say, I think you might be cut out for ministry. I think that might be what God's calling you to do, has been key for me. So, yeah.
What's a hard situation from your time here or even before Ashland that you've had to overcome and are thankful that you made it through?
Yeah. That's a great question. When I've learned something from it. I think it has to be. I'm not going to give you one situation, but I think it'll be a collection of lessons that I learned throughout the process, of being at Ashland. So when I first came into Ashland, I was very quick to speak, um, and I thought that my opinion, should be vocal in the classroom. I thought that it meant a lot more than it actually did. Um, and over time, I think that God softened my heart, but then others softened my heart as well. That speaking isn't necessarily, like, um, or being the first one to speak isn't always the first thing that should be on your mind. It should really be listening and meeting people where they're at. And so there have been a few different times, throughout my experience here, whether in the classroom or with others, where they told me, Zach, you've really grown. You came in as a freshman as a reactionary, and you liked to argue. You liked to try and get your point across, even when it wasn't helpful. But we appreciate the way that you have come to see others in their situations. And so I think over time, that's probably where I've seen growth within myself the most. As I look back over my 4 years, I see that I really have grown. And so wherever you go to college, it's probably going to be a 4 year process. And so you will be a different person when you come out. You're starting adulthood. Really, you think of high school as, oh, an adult now. No, no, you're not an adult when you graduate high school. At least I wasn't an adult when I graduated high school. But now I kind of feel like I'm stepping into a new sort of independence. Um, uh, that is really reliant on the journey that I've had here. And so I've been formed in certain ways that have really reoriented my expectations of myself, but then also of others. And it's like, no, you need to learn from others first before you try and jump to conclusions, because you really don't know as much as you think you do. And it's good. Humility should always be the first step. And so that's really what I've learned, I think. And it was a collection of things, but that's really where I think I've seen the most growth in myself,
Yeah.
over these 4 years.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Man. So earlier you were talking about being a pastor and loving like the teaching side of things first and then recognizing that no, I think I could be called to do the shepherding part of it too. And I feel like the hard situation that I encountered really helped shape what it looks like to shepherd a group of people. So when I was here at school, FCA, Joe Magalet did an excellent job in teaching and giving me the tools to really study scripture well. Like it really equipped me to teach in the Bible studies, to make disciples, to dive deep into God's word. But when I was here as a student, I was on the track team. I was an All American. And there was always this phrase that our coach said to us: what I had, I gave, and what I saved is lost forever. And so he would share that message with us, usually towards the end of the season at national championship meets, just to remind us, leave it all out there. And after my senior year, I had this opportunity to stay on to the track team as an assistant coach. And so I gladly took that opportunity. I had qualified for the Olympic trials and was able to compete. And I just wanted to continue that train as long as I could. And as I was there with my coach, his health took a turn for the worse. He got COVID, and this was right after beating cancer. And so as he got COVID, he was going to miss our first meet. And I remember him sending me a message asking, "Hey, can you lead the team to that first meet?" And it was mainly leading the thrower group. I wasn't like assistant head coach, just assistant for the throws program. And so I say, "Yeah, absolutely." Well, then I get another message after that meet. "Hey, still not doing too well. Can you write the next bit of the program for us so that they can continue to do their workouts over break?" Absolutely, I can take care of that. Well, as that winter break hit, the coach's health continued to get worse and worse until he ended up passing away that January, right before the students came back. And I remember it went from a yes to leading them to a meet to a yes to writing that first bit of the next program to now the distance coach on the team asking me, "Would you stick with the team for the rest of the season and coach the throws?" And it was a really hard decision because there was a lot stacking on my plate all at that same time. At that same time, I said yes to a position to take on the role at the Well Campus Ministry, which added about 20 more hours to my schedule. And so I had very limited ability, capacity, time to give to track. But that quote that my coach said came back to me, and I recognized all that Ashland track and field had given to me. And I really did feel called to give that back, every last bit back to that team. And so I stuck with them through that season to coach. And in that time of coaching a grieving team, I really learned what it looked like to shepherd. And I think one of the things that you hit already is listening, actually listening to people. And I realized that that was the thing that distinguished Ashland from some other great programs and really led us to that excellency standard. And the program was, I recognized that programs are good, but what makes them great is specificity. When you actually listen to the athletes and say, "Actually, that's not my strong suit. Can we tweak this program a little bit so that I can do well here?" And so I was always thankful for that season of the older people, the vets on the team that would speak out in those instances to remind me, "Hey, we like to do things this way because it helps us here." And then seeing that lead to their success or allowing them to step in and help coach some of the younger people on the team, contributing their unique gifts. That season, it taught me so much that in shepherding, I didn't have to do everything, but I just needed to empower all the people that were there to do the work. Just like I think part of the role of the pastor is to equip the saints for the work of the church, right? And so that is the season I think that was probably one of the most challenging for me, but taught me the most about pastoring. And it didn't have anything to do with the church, which was kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Something that you kind of were like circling around while you were talking that made me want to ask you a question about your experience in ministry, but then how that coaching led to your shepherding experience, I guess. Do you think that ministry is more about learning tangible skills, or is it about bringing the intangibles that you've picked up through experience to the table and then kind of leading others? Like, is there like a not like a book, but are there like 10 steps of ministry that you follow? Or is it more like, I'm gonna go with the flow, kind of guide my flock in a certain way, based on what I've learned over the course of doing these types of things?
My dad has this saying that nothing is a waste. And I really believe that's true because I think all of my life experiences have prepared me for the work that God has called me to do. Um, and in that, what I feel like I've been called to do is steward redemptive opportunities. As a phrase that I like to use all the time. And it looks so different in so many different situations. So there could be a kid that loved choir, but got burned in choir experiences. And because I was in charge of creating worship teams and worship sets, I invited him to be a part of the worship team. And so this became a redemptive opportunity for him to go and serve the rest of the church. And so that's kind of the duties, is making sure the schedule's upkept. But it was me stewarding these redemptive opportunities that led to this kid growing closer to the Lord, serving the Lord with the gifts God gave him, and really healing him from some really hard situations in the past. So that has been like the key to me in ministry, is stewarding redemptive opportunities wherever that might lead me. If that leads me to the remote places, I'll go to the remote places. If that puts a target on my back, I'll go there. That's kind of why I'm in community and belonging, doing diversity work here at Ashland University. I recognize that as a Christian, as a pastor, that put a target on my back. Some people don't like DEI. Uh, And then also I realized that in those diverse communities, there's not a great reputation that the church has with them. And so from both sides of the situation, people might not love what I was doing, but the Holy Spirit really convicted me in Luke 15 as you see a few examples of the lost being returned and then this rejoice and celebration in heaven. Uh, I recognized that I could retreat from that opportunity for the salvation of my reputation, or I could step into those remote places with the Lord and rejoice with heaven over the lost being
Yeah.
returned to him.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, so if you were to, or so pretend I'm a freshman.
Yeah.
If you were to look at me and say you might be a good fit for ministry, what's some advice that you might tell a student who's either considering college, like a religion major, for ministry, um, or what are some things you might tell them to look for in themselves to say, you know what, I think ministry is where I need to go.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think one of the things that you would look for in yourself is one, just this first delight in the Lord. All right. If it doesn't start there, it's really hard to give. I always tell myself that the best thing that I can offer anybody in my work is the wholeness of myself. And that's cultivated with a deep intimacy with the Lord. And so, first, I see that if a student has this genuine delight in the Lord and they're seeking the Lord and they're being refreshed and renewed daily through their relationship that they're cultivating, that's the first marker that I want to see in a student that might be considering ministry. Understanding those practices, understanding Sabbath and how to rest and take care of their body well. Those are some of the things that I look for. But then I look for the next piece of it is people that uniquely want to share the gifts that God gave them with others around them. That's the piece. And it can look so many different ways, whether you're a gifted musician, whether you're a gifted speaker, whether you are super intellectually wise, that like you might be a teacher and you might lead Bible studies. Whatever that gift might be, that's the thing that I encourage people to cultivate. I often don't just send people to ministry, but I really see like their life as ministry wherever they might land. And that's really what I like to call students to is considering using the gifts that God gave them for his glory. So, yeah, I'm not the one that typically sends a lot of people to traditional ministry unless they believe that that's something that they've been called to specifically, but I really do see all people being able to serve the church through those unique gifts.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can all serve the church. Like you said, we all have many gifts, but we're all part of the same body, and so it depends on how we're going to use that. I think if I were to look to a freshman today, or a senior in high school or junior, who is thinking about ministry, I think what I would say to look for in themselves, is where are you making, where do you naturally find yourself making an impact, with others, within your relationship, relationships with them. Is it, uh, or do you find it natural in the one-on-one conversation? Do you find yourself being good at public speaking? Are you a good presenter? Are you a good communicator in that sense? Are you better at understanding how people might need to, um, grow, whether it's spiritually or help them mentally, physically? Um, but naturally, as you look back throughout your life, where do you find yourself, in relationships, kind of helping others to grow, toward Jesus ultimately, but in their own, kind of experience with others, is might be the first thing I would say.
Mm,
Go with what feels natural, I
yeah.
think, because it might not be ministry doesn't have to just be in the church.
Mhm.
Like you said, your entire life is ministry, so it could be in the classroom, or it could be on stage singing. I don't
Mhm.
have the musical gifts like
Yep.
others do, um, and so that's a ministry though,
Mhm.
and it comes naturally to people. So that might be the first thing I would say to someone, if they were considering ministries. What comes naturally to you?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, one thing I'd love to hear from you is what do you want your life work to contribute to?
yeah, yeah. Um, my friend's, one of the pre-seminary students I mentioned earlier, his phone screen. I'm gonna get this quote wrong, but it's something like, uh, live well, preach the gospel, and die forgotten, or something like that. And ultimately, I don't want to die forgotten, but I think that, ultimately that speaks to a truth that, I think I need to constantly remember, um, and that's that, humility, is ultimately, or so there's another quote I like. When you're the first thing you should do is train the radio waves of your heart to humility, for it is there that Christ most often speaks. And so I guess going back to that discernment conversation we were having earlier, um, if you if your first step is humility and kind of submitting yourself to Christ, ultimately God will work through you in whatever capacity that might look like. And so if I had like a goal in doing that, it would just be that my entire life is focused in that mission of being humble, working where God places me. Like you said, whether that's in the wilderness or whether that's in a big city, whatever that might look like. But just being a child of God first, and being humble with that calling. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I love that.
yeah,
I love that. Yeah. So, Zach, what would you want your life to bring to the world?
yeah. It's a great question. Um, I hope that my life is a model of what someone in the kingdom might look like. And I hope that the world can look to the way I live and say, it's possible to live like Christ lived. Um, it's not just some lofty standard that I can't ever attain. Obviously, I'm going to fall short, and people need to hold me accountable for that. But I hope that there are moments throughout my life where people can look to it and say, you know what? It's possible to be a good uh, follower of God, to whatever capacity that might look like. So I hope that that's what I can bring to the world, is what it actually looks like to follow Christ to the best of your abilities. You're never going to perfectly obey his commands, but you should at least give it your best shot.
Yeah.
So how about you? When it's all said and done,
Yeah.
what do you want to bring to the world?
Man, I think what I want to bring to the world is light. My coach, he always had this thing of this word he coined, light giver, where you basically illuminate around somebody the potential broader than what they see in themselves. And when I talked about redemptive opportunities, that's similar to that light giving kind of work. And that's really what I want to dedicate my life to. I kind of want to pass the torch or receive the torch from him that was passed to me and continue to pass that on to others. Once you've been invested in, then go invest that back in other people and just start that chain reaction of blessing and really seeing more in others than what they might even see in themselves, celebrating that and calling it out of them.
Mm.